How's it going, ladies, gentlemen, and non-binaries? Mr. Hunteru here again for another installment into the Out of This World series. For those that didn't watch the last video on ReZero and have no idea what this series is, it basically entails me looking at various isekais and analyzing scenes that I think are amazing or really resonated with me. Undoubtedly one of the most popular isekais that aired in the last year, and maybe even the last few years, is Mushoku Tensei, or Jobless Reincarnation. The series follows Rudeus Greyrat, who was once a 30-year-old man, and now has been reincarnated as a child in a new and unknown world to explore. I will go in depth about how I feel about the series on a later date, but you guys requested that I look at Mushoku Tensei for this series, so here I am. I'm here to deliver it for you peeps. Today, we will be looking at a somewhat small scene that I enjoyed a fair amount and one that I think is overlooked a lot. Rudy leaving home for the first time with Roxy. Some of you might be shrugging as to why of all things I'm deciding to look at this scene, since there are definitely better scenes in Mushoku Tensei. So bear with me for a little bit as I explain why I think this scene is one of the first of many heartwarming scenes in the series, which the other scenes will also probably get videos of their own in due time. Anyways, as we all know, Rudy used to be kind of a piece of shit. And he still has his moments where he's one here in this new world, but there is a reason he became a piece of shit. He actually used to be a pretty good and social kid, boasting good grades and allegedly being regarded as very intelligent for his age in elementary school. However, this changed very quickly due to him joining a computer club when he got into junior high school. This club is where he found a new love for PCs, and he began to build one of his own. But it came at a very heavy price of his academics and his grades. This led to him becoming a very big nerd or a really huge geek, and he gained some weight as he let go of himself quite a bit. And the result of this, unfortunately, was severe bullying in high school. He was able to endure it for a while, but one day he snapped when someone cut in front of him in the lunch line, and he decided to tell them off. Which might sound a little odd that this tipped him over, but I think it's justified because of the response to this. The person that cut in front of him later beat him up and hung him up at the school gate naked. This naturally was the last straw for Rudy, and he decided to stop going to school after this. Due to him being intensely bullied and harassed in high school, Rudy developed an extreme fear of leaving his house. It was so bad, in fact, that he would never even leave his own room, and he would get mad at anyone that suggested he leave his house, as we saw with one of his few people that he would hang out with from school. But he ended up chasing that person away. So his fear of the outside was left to dwell for about 20 years, until he finally ended up going outside. Not on his own will, though. He was evicted and disowned from his family after not attending his father's funeral. And, well, he got hit by a truck. So, naturally, you get reincarnated after being hit by trucks. That's how things work here in the anime world. And he grows up not really thinking too much about leaving his house in this new world. He only really seems to think about learning about the world and about bettering his magic skills, since he naturally is very interested in magic due to his nerdy background. Secluding himself inside the house gave him an abundant amount of time to train and to better his magic, and is what led to him making that giant water ball on the second floor of his home. His parents finally find out about his magic meddlings, and they hire a magic tutor, which is where Roxy comes into the story. Roxy is a down-to-earth, very kind girl that is super knowledgeable when it comes to magic, which is how she landed this job. And she's stunned by Rudy, as he's one of the first people she's met that can cast spells without verbally chanting anything. The two would become very close, and Roxy would gradually become friends with also the entire village, almost. And despite some, very weird scenes occasionally, Roxy arriving ends up being super beneficial to everybody. Throughout his training, Rudy has moments where his past life obviously will come to haunt him, such as when he sees kids his age playing, he suddenly imagines them holding cell phones with malicious intent. Roxy sees him down in the dumps, and she comes to cheer him up whenever she sees him acting sad, which, is really nice of her. But, she doesn't know what's going on in his head, truly, because how would anybody? About a year and a half passes since Roxy's arrival, and Rudy's magic has progressed amazingly. Absolutely amazingly. And he's also been able to make some great memories, such as celebrating his birthday for the first time in many, many years. However, he still has a fear of leaving his house due to his past life. Rudy himself acknowledges how upset he is with himself for still holding so much fear of the outside now that he was given a second chance at life. But he can't shake off that fear of anxiety and being judged like he was back on Earth. Roxy and his family, of course, have taken notice of his fear, and they want to try and help him somehow. After Roxy gives her birthday gift to Rudy, she mentions how the time has come for Rudy's graduation from her tutoring. She tells him about how her plan is for them to leave the house and do a magic test outside of the house, and naturally, this freaks Rudy out a lot, since he doesn't want to leave home at all costs. But Roxy reassures him that everything is okay, and picks him up. Then she plops him on their horse and starts to move towards their property's gate. He starts to panic as he gets flashbacks of the past. But Roxy again reassures him that it's okay because she's there with him. He shuts his eyes as tight as he can, and then after a few, he hesitantly opens them. Rudy has managed to make it outside of his home for the first time in maybe 30 or so years. Although the hurdle in his mind still hasn't been jumped, as he still is extremely fearful of people looking at him. Someone comes towards them on a horse, and Rudy braces himself as he's ready to be judged. But to his surprise, they pay almost no mind to him. In fact, they're all paying attention to Roxy and interacting with her happily. The simple interaction she's having with the villagers makes Rudy realize how hard she must have worked to be accepted here in this land, due to prejudice against the color of her hair sometimes resembling a spurd, which is like a very evil race of creatures in this world, or her clothing being not from this land, or because of how short she was. There were a lot of things about Roxy that could have led to people getting the wrong impression of her. Despite any kind of prejudice she could have received, she trucked through, and the village gradually fell in love with her. This is when Rudy realizes that he had nothing to be afraid of, and he calms down thanks to how inspiring Roxy is.
どうしました？まだ怖いですか？いえ、もう大丈夫です。
俺は何を恐れてたのだろう。
I think the scene is amazing because Rudy had something ingrained in his mind so deeply that he could hardly move his legs if he thought about leaving his house. But his fear was there for good reason because of the intense bullying he received in his past life. But no matter how strong the fear you have, or how deep the worries you hold are, as long as you have someone that cares about you by your side, or holding your hand along the way, there is nothing that you can't overcome. There is someone I have in my life currently that by just watching her do her best to succeed at her dreams, I feel so inspired and full of motivation. Just like how Roxy so confidently broke one of Rudy's greatest fears. This person in my life is breaking a lot of my insecurities as well. Rudy is a piece of shit a lot of the time, and I bounce between absolutely despising him and liking him. But I really understand how he feels here in this moment.
こんなのどかな村で誰が俺をバカにするというのか。
We just watched someone overcome an extreme fear that they've had for 30 years, and it's so extremely heartwarming. And that is why I believe that this simple scene in episode 2 of this series is out of this world.